That was easy.
What time does this 7 o'clock show start?
Oh, 7:23, I think.
I think so.
That's what I heard.
We were actually running. Well, we were running super on time, and then I space setting up Caster, and then I tried to do it, and then I remembered that there were settings within Caster, and yeah, I dropped the ball a number of times. It's just weird that it's completely Lance's fault, but here
I
we
take full
are.
responsibility.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
Please send all your complaints directly to my Facebook page.
Holy moly! So we got a whole bunch of questions. I asked on the Instagram stories for the Brass Junkies feed. I asked for people to submit questions, and also that because Facebook decided to add stories. Did you know that LinkedIn has stories now? Twitter has stories, like everything. Yeah. Anyway,
Dr. Seuss has stories.
yeah, well, our good friend Aaron Rosenthal has one of those really nice, like, electrical toilets from Japan. I'm waiting for the toilet to have stories. I think it's coming. So
I don't want to understand. I don't want to know what stories that thing has to tell.
I've said too much. Let's start.
You're
with
never gonna believe what happened today.
It's gonna be. Let's start with a helpful one. Craig Martin asked, Chinese horns and their positive and negative impacts on the brass world.
Positive and negative. Well,
I can start with a positive.
okay.
A positive is that it makes horns more affordable for a large number of students and a large number of school systems and a large number of that. Now, the potential negative is that a lot of these have not been around long enough to have a track record because, as you know, you could buy, if you buy something for $1,000, you don't. It's not good to buy something for $100 that breaks 10 times more frequently. That's like
Right.
not. That doesn't. Even if it broke 9 times more frequently, at some point you just you buy the $1,000 version. But I do know that there weren't a lot of high quality professional end horns that were professional quality horns that weren't that expensive, and so a lot of the cost of that has come down. Even within the professional ranks, a lot of the cost has come down, where you do not have to pay $26,000 for a top big honkin' but agile C orchestral tuba. And I'm not saying those aren't better, but are those 2.5 times better than the kinds that you can get for 10 grand now? A lot of people would say no. And some people will very, very loudly say yes. And that's fine. They're right. So are the people that say no. They're right too. So those are my thoughts.
I think you're right on the positives. That's probably the simplest. They're cheaper, therefore more accessible. I think the biggest, other than what you said, which I agree with, I think the other biggest drawback is that it confuses the daylights out of people. Really confuse, especially parents or inexperienced players who they just see the price and they're like, "Whoa, you're telling me this one is $700 and the other one is $4,000? Like, how about we'll try the $700 one?" And you're like, "Okay," except you're going to have to buy 5 of them and you're going to have it in the shop most of the time.
Sure.
And the valves go like this, and but that's how I assess it.
Now here's a less helpful one from Adam Gillespie. That name's not ringing a bell. Is it ringing a bell for you?
I know Adam Gillespie.
Of course, he used to be an intern for Petalone Media.
Of course he did.
So he says peanut butter, crunchy or creamy, why and why not? First of all, I'd like to say that that a certain Donna Parks, trombonist extraordinaire, she commented and wrote, "None, peanut butter is the worst," to which I responded, "Blocked," in all caps.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're
Peanut
done.
allergy or
we're
what?
Done, we're
Just
done.
like-
We're done with Donna.
We'll never
So
know.
That's
Yeah.
it. Well, she's dead to us. So officially.
What's that? It's just like makes you wonder, like, why have that vehement of a? Like if you have a peanut allergy, okay, fine.
If it'll kill you, then
Anaphylactic
great.
shock, therefore C, none of the above. But short of that, like, is peanut butter so egregious that you have to have that strong of an opinion?
Apparently,
Stupid tap water.
She did.
Hate you, white bread.
She did say, "Does it help that I love Vegemite?"
Ah, okay.
So
That helps paint in the picture a little bit more.
right?
I see. Okay.
It's pretty funny. So what are you? You creamy or chunky?
Well, I would have predicted that you have a strong opinion, and I do not. I like actually here's my thing with peanut butter. I don't like peanut butter that you have to keep in the refrigerator, because then it's just like
Yeah, the peanut butter with the chemicals is better.
Yeah.
Natural peanut butter is like, I like the concept a lot because but yeah.
I don't have to plan ahead for toast. I'll get the peanut butter out.
Don't want to have to plan ahead for toast. See, this is the only that kind of hot take. You're not going to get that on like cable news or Netflix. It's just here.
No, so I like peanut butter. I like it both crunchy and creamy. That like extra crunchy where it's like mostly nuts with a little bit of oil in there. Not my favorite, but I'll still eat it. I just like peanut butter. Sorry, Donna. Oh, she's blocked. She won't know.
I think I kind of outed myself that I didn't block her since I saw her response about Vegemite. But
Russell, we're kidding. It's okay.
But wait, what happened?
Russell Charger said that Louisville will keep Miss Parks.
Oh, well, that's,
we will too.
Well, we all have, lines that we allow people to cross to keep them in our lives. And
well, now that we're talking about like a really important topic. Well, first of all, have you weighed in on the chunky versus creamy?
So when I was a kid, it was all chunky. Like I was all chunky.
I want someone to pull that section of video up right there.
Hey, it's on
when
YouTube.
I was a kid, it was all chunky.
It's just going to be on YouTube forever, so that's not a problem. When I was a kid, it was all chunky. Now it's creamy. Now I'm a creamy. Now I'm a creamy guy. And there wasn't like really like there wasn't an incident or anything.
Yeah.
It's not like 25 years ago there was some girl who broke my heart who was all about chunky peanut butter, and I was like, never again. It was none of my 48 sworn enemies have vowed an allegiance to chunky peanut butter. I just kind of I've morphed. Okay,
and now in terms of peanut butter and jelly, is it 50-50? Or is it peanut butter and jelly, or is it peanut butter and jelly, or is it peanut butter and jelly, or what's the ratio?
It is 50-50, and my thing is that there needs to be a large amount of peanut butter and a large amount of jelly. So
if it's not squirting out the sides, you've not done it right.
No, not squirting out the sides, but like if it's not great bread, it should be within 10% of like no longer being structurally sound.
Okay, and since this is, I'm sure, captivating viewing, top 3 jellies or jams or marmalades.
Well, I mean, grape is, I think you kind of got to go with grape, right?
I'm with you.
I mean, that's one of the 3. I do actually really like orange marmalade, like quite a bit. I like orange marmalade.
You can have mine.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like
I like grape. If I can't have grape, I might just have peanut butter. But it would also sometimes strawberries is acceptable, and then sometimes if it's like hoity-toity and there's like a blackberry or a raspberry, I'm down for that too.
Yeah, especially if you're into seeds in your teeth.
Yeah, there's that. If you're from the Northwest, then there's Marionberry, which if you're an implant from Washington, D.C. to the Northwest, that's just hilarious.
That's the former mayor of Washington, D.C. who was videoed smoking crack and then got reelected. The moving right along.
Well, and what about bread? We didn't really talk about bread.
What about bread?
What for the PB&J, the ideal PB&J?
Oh, I mean, ideal PB&J is like, nothing.
Just not moldy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bread isn't why I'm coming to the PB and J.
It's a delivery system for the peanut butter and the grape jelly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All
So
right, I can get behind that.
that's kind of how I'm. Have I mentioned in the last like 5 minutes how the still relatively new Instagram redesign is an absolute dumpster fire? It's unbelievable. It's
Pretty
really
funny.
really bad. Yeah, they're trying to turn it into a shopping site. Um, I am now trying to.
J. Austin, raspberry jelly is hoity-toity. It's not. Well, it's a little hoity-toity. I wouldn't say it's like, you know, it's not $9 a jar, but it's not grape jelly.
So the chat thing is doing that thing again. Where on Facebook, everyone's username is empty username, all in one word with a capital E and a capital U. Well, here we got one person. Sorry to jump the gun, but I do have a question. But I do have a question for you guys. What is your advice for a young musician who wants to play chamber music professionally? My advice would probably be don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. In regards to preparation and skills one should have to be successful in the chamber music world, love your guys' content. I mean, yeah, when I was a kid, it was all chunky. I'm just going to say that randomly a few more times before we hang up, just to make my friend Lance laugh. Boy, this is
This could be the rest of the talk.
This could be the rest of the talk. Well, one thing I want to point out is that we actually have, I think it was a 2-part episode of called "Starting a Brass Group," which, if you search, it was sometime since episode 100. I think it was like in the one teens. Is that a term? It is now the 120s. But that we have a lot of advice there. In terms,
Listener's choice, episode 110, 109 and 110.
like I said, the one aughts, and then the one anyway. Yeah, so we did a deep dive on that actually, which we covered a lot of this. Part of it, I mean, boy, it really depends whether you are looking for. And who is this, by the way? Since I'm looking,
Michael
at
James Kirby III.
Oh, there you go. He's an active consumer of our content. Hello, sir. Hello, empty username. You are my favorite Facebook user. Empty
Good day,
username.
sir.
Good day, sir. Let's see here. The in terms of musically, it's a couple answers, right? I mean, if you're looking to play original music that's written by composers for your ensemble, depends on that's a completely different skill set than, say, hopping into Dallas Brass or hopping into a pre-existing group. So it's a really, really broad question.
Well, musically, if you were looking to do a Boston Brass type gig, then your ability to play diverse styles is incredibly important. You have to just be awesome. That's just part and parcel of it. Like, you must be excellent. But your ability to speak multiple musical languages fluently is imperative, because in brass quintets, you have a limited color palette, and because of the Canadians and Empire, and hopefully us to a degree when we were in the quintet, as well as them after we left the group, there's among the other groups too. Variety is the key in presenters' minds and consumers' minds. Brass quintets mean variety. Then, as an individual, you should do everything you can to inform yourself of. I wouldn't say you have to be expert in every aspect of running a small business, but if you are a numbers person, then you should go down that road and become a fantastic either financial planner, for lack of a better way to describe it, or someone that could be a huge asset to a quintet or a chamber group in terms of running the books. Or if you're a good salesperson, that you bring something to the table in terms of how the it's a small business. In the quintet, There's 5 people. If you're lucky and you have management, then it's more than that. But one of the 5 of you is going to have to do sales. One of the 5 of you is going to have to do programming. One of the 5 of you is going to have to deal with the books. One's going to, there's just like the stuff that has to happen. And so you should educate yourself in the areas that are particularly interesting to you or that you happen to be good at. And then the last part, I guess, is 2-part. I think one, it's harder to put your finger on, but you need to figure out how to be a good colleague. How to collaborate, how to be willing to take criticism, how to be flexible. The biggest challenges I've ever had, or did ever have in the group, had more to do with my inability to be flexible or roll with punches than
What are you talking about?
anything. And the other side of that is that if you're in a successful chamber group, which means a touring chamber group, likely, you should be as healthy as you can be, and I mean that every way possible. I mean spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. You should be mature. You should be all the things I wasn't.
And you had me as an example right in front of you, and you still just totally missed it. Notice he didn't even playfully disagree with that because there was no way he was going to be able to do that in a gentle manner. So I would find if there is a chamber group, and it could be if there's a chamber group that looks like one that you would like to do, then try and figure out, and this could also involve just asking them, like just asking somebody, like reaching out and saying, hey, can I bend your ear for 5 minutes, especially if you're young, like empty username who asked us this question. You can kind of get away with that as a student, or you can offer to give them a little bit of money for like an hour of their time. Ask them what skills they need. Ask them what skills they didn't have that they had to acquire. And then go start working on those skills. A big part of being in a chamber group. Now, if you're in a string quartet that plays Beethoven string quartets for a living, and Bartok, and which is some of my favorite music ever written, there's not by definition an expectation that all 4 of you are going to speak on the mic extensively during the concert. But if you're in a brass quintet like Boston Brass, then or you're in a woodwind quintet like Amani Winds, or you're in a trio like Time for Three, then you're going to get on the mic. So start talking to people, right? Like start talking to groups, start presenting, start just doing Facebook Lives like this, which is the first time you do it, there's going to be like 4 people listening, and that will still make you nervous. So, just figure out what you need to figure out what you don't know, and then take actions towards closing the gap.
Here's a good one. Did you see his?
I was just going to say, yep. To that point, any tips on giving criticism without being a jerk? First of all, one of my mentors says all the time, criticism without compassion is cruelty. I think that's really good to keep in mind. But a lot of times I will ask myself, if something's going to be contentious, I try to ask 3 questions in a row, which are, does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? And does this need to be said by me right this second? And anytime I start that sequence, I rarely get 3 yeses. He asked me, Jake. I rarely get 3 yeses. And frequently it'll be like a yes, I need to say this, or it needs to be said. And yes, I am either the only person who can say it to Lance, or I'm the best person that can say it to Lance because of this situation or our relationship or whatever. But then that third one, does it need to be said right this second? Maybe. And Lance and I don't fight, right? But every once in a while, there's a little bit of just whatever, because somebody is tired or hungry or whatever, or I'm just waxing poetic, if you could believe it. And Lance is just like not in the mood, which is understandable on both of those counts. But anyway, it's almost never the time when I start that sequence, right? With anybody. It's like, okay, yes, he needs to hear this. Yes, I'm the person, but like, why not do it tomorrow, right? It's almost always my ego that needs him to hear it right this second.
Mhm.
Where it's just like, I just, also, and how I interact with anybody at all is completely on me. 100% I'm responsible for my own behavior. I personally have a really hard time being in groups, whether it's musical groups or business groups, where I say to Lance, like, hey, I've been meaning to talk to you, that could you maybe think about this, in the future when you're doing this moving forward? And then Lance's response is, okay, but you've been, and then like says something back. Like, I try to not actually have any working relationships with people like that, just because it's exhausting, like, because to me, you like, great, but like, bring it up earlier, and the tone is never good. That second part there, never. And I'm not saying I nailed the 3-question thing myself, right? Of course I don't. There are times when I totally, there are times when I don't even initiate that, that sequence, but it's hard. It's hard. And there are people who are, we've all worked with people before who give a lot of criticisms and critiques and who can't take it. Those are really hard people to work with as well. But then that's one of those things where, okay, who do you have on your bus, right? Like, put the right people on the bus. And then, I literally cannot, I cannot think of a single time in the 6 years of Pedal Note Media, and we've had some really high highs, and then we've like hit our, we've stepped on a few rakes, where like it just smacks us in the collective face. I can't think of a single time when I've said something to Lance that you like, that didn't go well. I mean, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like, I mean, times when there's a little bit of tension there, but it's like, it's never like, screw you. We've never like hung up the, angrily. It's hard to angrily hang up a Zoom call because you just kind of, there's no door, there's no pace to leaving. You just like, the screen's gone. Your finger hurts from hitting the mouse so hard, but they don't know it. Anyway, that's
I th-
hard.
it is hard. I think also in a rehearsal situation, well, actually, it's symbolic of other situations, but if you are ready to give criticism, using your word, uh, there is an assumption that you're right about something, that you're right that person's out of tune, or that person's out of time, or that person is whatever, and that it isn't you. And so I think the most successful groups or situations I've been in have been ones where we go, this isn't lining up. I don't know what's happening. Can you run this with me? And I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's you. I don't know what's happening. And then, and actually better if you can get a objective party to weigh in on what they're hearing, instead of you're always late, you're always sharp, you're always whatever. And that's all. The last part is just the easy part. Just be nice, just be
Yeah.
polite. Like, you know, there's everybody. If everybody is trying to make this thing a success, no one is intentionally screwing up.
Trust. Gotta have trust,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. If Lance is asking me to amend my behavior within the business that's Pedal Note Media, it's because, or not amend behavior is a strong way to put it, just like to change my actions, to redirect them, or to be more consistent or whatever. It's because he thinks that's what's going to make the business more successful, which is going to
Mhm.
make me more successful. I mean, it's not like, yeah, I don't do work with anybody who would be taking petty shots just to, to lower the tide in
Yeah.
order to like get a personal score. And like Lance just said, be ready to own up to it, right? I mean, like when I this was a while ago now, when I played at Banff in a quintet with Joe Alessi, we were playing the Malcolm Arnold, and in the second movement, there was a note or two that Joe and I, the first time we read it, we were not together, intonation wise, we were not in tune. And as soon as we stopped, I leaned over and I was like, Joe, I was like, the D flat, I was like, I'm really sorry, like, I was flat, like, I got it. And he just like, he wasn't smiling, but he just very calmly, he was like, he said, no hits, that was me, you were fine, we're good. Like, it's like, I was just kind of like, it's Joe Alessi, he's not out of tune. It's like, well, let me put it this way, I play in tune, but I don't play as in tune as Joe Alessi, so who do you think it is? It's probably gonna be Joe Alessi. So I'm gonna tell Joe Alessi that I'm sorry, Joe Alessi, that I was out of tune. And he was like, dude, we're good, I was sharp, like, and it was in tune for the entire rest of the week, including the gig. So he could have said like, thanks, kid, I mean, I wasn't really a kid, but it's just own it. Just own it.
We should always refer to him as Joe Alessi.
Yes.
What do you think, Joe Alessi?
That's what it felt like when I was sitting in between Marty Hackelman and Joe Alessi, even though, it's like Marty Hackelman, Joe Alessi. It's like, so it was very funny. So, all right, some more questions here. Jonathan Dorn, I saw your question about the New Year's Met debacle, and I actually saw that something major went down, but I didn't read up enough about it to be able to comment on it. The very superficial thing I got was that it was a whole bunch of bullcrap, and that organization has made one bad decision after another. I mean, like it's almost like a baseball player who's like good, who has struck out 25 times. You're like, there's no way they're just gonna ground to first, right? There's no way they're gonna strike out again. And like, nope, they struck out again. So I'm gonna guess that I will end up coming down hard on the side against the Met management, but I don't know the specifics. So
yeah, I'm in that boat. I stay off. And so I was doing some quick research, but found what you found. Yeah, it doesn't look good for them.
And people who I know and almost always see eye to eye with were up in arms, who were informed on the situation. So yeah, but I don't want to speak out of school. Bruce Deal wants to know my favorite euphonium excerpts.
Yeah.
All right, that was the whole answer. Let's see here. Danger Rouseman responded with he wants us to comment on the increasing severity of Jens's condition and all possible solutions. So I actually replied from our account on Instagram. I said that maybe we could have a group prayer for Jens. So why don't you lead us through a group prayer, Lance?
Dear Heavenly Brass Deity.
Wait, we're praying to Jens?
Oh no, not to you. I'm praying to the greater brass.
Okay,
deity.
Sorry.
We come.
That's Jeff Connor.
We come to thee humbly, praying for the recovery for our dear friend Jens, as he continues to struggle, and actually hope that he sees fit to grow past the denial that he's having any problems. We've been trying for years now to help him. So please uncover his eyes and let him see forward anon.
I like it. Uncover his eyes. That's funny. That is really funny, actually.
There you go.
Excuse me. Ben Hopkins, or rather _Ben_Hopkins_, says, taking breaks or days off from playing, question mark? I mean, I never do, but my voice even cracked as I tried to say that seriously. No, I mean, yes, I think that you have to be intentional about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if your goal is to be able to play Also Sprach Zarathustra like Tom Hooton can, not just like at your best, but like Tom's just, this is his B level playing of Also Sprach, and that you want that to be your B level, and you're taking a couple of days off a week, then you're probably going to find yourself past your prime in terms of like date of birth before you catch up to him at all, right? But I do think that mental, I mean, I think that days off should be intentional is the thing, and that you should plan them in, because you can also do a lot that's not here. You can do a lot that's here. And there should be days when you're just like off, right? Like,
yeah,
put on a, whatever, put on a Rolling Stones album, put on whatever. Your fill in your, watch every Jacob Collier, video, whatever you want to do. So what are your thoughts?
Taskmaster, I think, instead of Jacob Collier.
That's fine too.
But I agree with all of that. And I think it all has to depend on, it depends on the goal and where you are in the goal. If you have an audition that's coming up or a big performance that's coming up and you can't afford to take, you don't want to, I don't want to say can't afford, but if you haven't planned to take some time off, you might be setting yourself up for disaster. I think you just need to know how does this practice session fit into the overall plan to get me where I'm going. And rest should be a part of that, not only for your face, but as you said, for your brain. Right. And sometimes, especially if you're really, if you have those some of those periods where there's like incredible development that happens, and you really are diving deep into the minutia and really working on the stuff that needs the attention to get you to the next level. You need some time. The brain needs some time to process the new inputs and to create, to build more myelin, so that you are able to apply these skills, so that it sticks. So if you just keep, throwing new information at your brain's going to shut down at some point. So you need to let it kind of settle and process from there. So take a break.
I didn't see that Ellen said hello earlier. And
hi, Ellen.
Hello, Ellen. Steve Stricker, love all the yen stories. What are your favorite Jose Sabaja stories?
Oh.
Well, actually, here's a little bit of a sneak peek to our upcoming episode this week. I don't think we've announced this yet, that we interviewed Domingo Paliuca from Boston Brass, and we actually shared a story with Domingo because it was before he was in the band, which I will now share with you. Was that the first time that Boston Brass went to Alaska? We went to, I believe it was it Fairbanks? This was the second time that Boston Brass went to, because we went to Juneau before that, actually, and that was in May, and it was actually lovely. But we went to Fairbanks in December for a Christmas concert, and Jose bought a coat for that trip, and it was like fur lined. And it was so big because he's from Costa Rica, where it's I don't think it's cold in Costa Rica. If it dips below 80, I think it's cold. He looked like, as you said on the episode, he looked like Kenny, because it was like this, and his coat was so thick that his arms couldn't go all the way. They were not perpendicular to the ground. So there's a good Jose story for you. That was
actually that, and I remember when we got to the airport, our hosts met us, and they go, "Hey, you guys are lucky. It warmed up. It's 0."
Right. And I remember, because I'm a bad person, I immediately whip my head around to Jose just to see because if you're in a road band long enough, you just want to see your bandmates in some sort of emotional pain. I was like, oh, that's going to upset him.
We had a very asynchronous meal there, or a very out of character and an unexpected meal there. Do you remember the meal that we had? Asynchronous. But we had it at the same time.
I don't remember. What is this meal? Tell me. I'm not. I've been a few times, so I'm not.
It was in a pink house that was converted into a restaurant.
Now I remember. Yes.
And we had alligator po' boys.
Yes.
It was a pink Cajun restaurant.
And it was actually a really good po' boy.
Pretty good, yeah.
I know that we're like a kid from Michigan and a kid from Massachusetts here, but I've eaten an awful lot of po' boys in New Orleans and around Louisiana and Baton Rouge, and I've had the real deal. And
it was the best one I had in Alaska for sure.
These are it was tier 1
synchronous or asynchronous.
Alaskan. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that was the trip when my boarding pass said somehow my plane reservation said Andre hits. and it was with Alaska Airlines, but it was through what, Delta and Alaska Airlines, so it was Delta via Alaska Airlines. So I called Delta, and they were like, you have to talk to Alaska about changing the name, because they think you're trying to transfer the ticket. I'm like, no, it's just my name is not Andre. And then I call Alaska Airlines, and they're like, no, you have to call Delta. And I'm like, I just did call Delta. And so long story short, nobody could help me at all. And so I just had to hope that they were going to let me on the plane, or else I was going to have to just buy a new ticket for $1,200 from Alaska. And there was some high school kid who was at TSA who was just who barely was and then he just handed me my boarding pass. So I got through. Andre. So I'll say something nice about Jose, and then I actually got to go real soon.
Goodbye.
When we played in Banff, different time at the ITG, when we played that big combined film score thing.
Oh yeah.
The bullfighting scene from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is just like the two combatants from the movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. Jose played the trumpet solo, like the bullfighting trumpet solo, and it's one of the best things that I have ever heard any musician play at all. It was just like it sounded like the damn thing was written for him by like some composer who was his best friend, was like, I'm going to make you sound so good by writing this in your wheelhouse. It was unreal. It was unreal.
There you go.
I don't like saying nice things about any trumpet players, but especially ones that I was in bands with.
And it's being recorded.
And it's being recorded.
That's
But
the crazier part.
it was unreal. Yeah, it was special.
I
So,
was the bad. Were you the good or the ugly?
when I was when I was a kid, everything was chunky. Now somebody who's tuning in late is like, what are they going off on? It seems like we should definitely. Oh, by the way, my favorite request for what we should talk about came from Patrick Smithers 24 on Instagram, where he requested that we talk about, quote, literally anything other than brass playing.
We had a solid 10 minutes on PB&J, so you're welcome.
See that? See that? So there you go. Yeah, that we were thinking
uppity raspberry jam.
And I guess I did say that people could ask about Star Wars movies. Youth Foster, who you know, he asked what our least favorite Star Wars spin-off.
Oh, spin-off.
Yes. Can I call all of the movies that had Jar Jar Binks in them Star Wars spin-offs? Is that a acceptable shade?
You make him sad. Misa. Let's see. Now the series, I guess, right? See, I'm kind of a junkie for it. I just finished Mandalorian season 2, and then I watched the last 4 episodes of it again with my son, who hadn't seen it, so I got to watch his reaction as well.
I've still
which
not
was
seen
awesome.
it.
I won't say anything about it.
Yep.
I have a bunch of the animated series to work through, and some of them look absolutely god awful. Now I'm looking forward to the Clone Wars. I haven't seen those yet. There's a bunch of series of that, and then Rebels supposedly has some interesting stuff.
How about this? Can you report back to us on a future Brass Junkie Sunday for whatever sucks the most?
We'll do.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't even tell you. Never mind. Yeah, there's more news. So, but I'm shutting up.
Good. That's once in a row. Sorry, no, that's me. Anyway, thank you, everybody. We will. I'm still. Have either of you ever heard of a cool group called Fish? Check them out. I think you might like them. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Sean.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you too, Sean. I am not familiar with them, but I have a friend who likes them. He never shuts up about them, so it's very off-putting.
What is it, like bluegrass, or what is it?
It's just like the Grateful Dead.
Oh. So like boring.
Except they're all still alive.
Boring stoners.
I just threw shade at Jerry, who's one of my heroes. I'm going to get struck by lightning. And there's not really confirmation that Mickey Hart is still alive either. I mean, he technically is, but doesn't always sound like it. But
we could
along.
pray to the brass deity again, see if we can put a good word for you over in the Jam Band Central.
Anyway, all right. Is this friend named Andrew? It's
Andre.
Oh, goodness.
That was Andre.
All right. Yeah, that was Andre. There you go.